This is just endlessly funny, and I wanted to talk about it with you at the top of the show today. So, 2 nights ago, Donald Trump did this emergency address about something that's simply not an emergency: undocumented immigration to the United States and his desire for a border wall. And then after that, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, as the leaders of the Democrats in the House and Senate, respectively, gave this sort of awkward response speech where they were both sandwiched behind the same lectern. And it was just kind of weird, but it was still a good thing that they did it. And it was a good thing that networks covered it, because this was not a normal presidential address. It was more like a State of the Union in that it was a political speech. And as such, it made sense that Democrats be allowed to give a rebuttal and that networks cover it. We've now learned that the Democratic rebuttal speech to Donald Trump's crisis speech had more of an audience on network and cable television than Donald Trump's speech itself. And it is so funny because for the guy who is all about ratings and popularity, it's got to be killing him that he gave this ridiculous address to huge fanfare about how it's a major crisis. He's going to do a big boy and tell us what needs to happen. And then the Democratic rebuttal by the people who are telling him, we're not giving you the money for the wall, gets more of an audience than the actual speech that Trump gave. And we have preliminary numbers. Trump's speech drew a 28.1 household rating in metered markets on ABC, CBS, Fox News, NBC, CNN, and which one am I missing here? MSNBC, I guess. The following 15 minutes, during which the Pelosi Schumer rebuttal took place, got a 29.3. Okay, so it's about a 4% bigger audience for the rebuttal in the same markets and on the same networks. Now, the reality is the facts don't care about your feelings, and normally the State of the Union address gets a much higher rating than the rebuttal that happens after the fact. In this case, that's not the way it went, and about 4% higher ratings for the rebuttal. So it's not a huge thing that this happened, but it is notable because, number one, you have someone whose entire presidency has been effectively predicated on how popular are they, the great ratings they got on television as a reality show host. And it has to be absolutely killing the guy. And he actually gets fuel or momentum for policy from how popular it appears to be to the American public. But we don't want to, for any moment, mistake the reality that audience size doesn't determine whether there's a crisis. Audience size and ratings don't tell us who lied and who told the truth. The popularity of a speech doesn't give us any information about what the correct policy decision needs to be, but it matters to Trump and it matters to his audience, which is what makes it hilarious. Normally, it wouldn't even be worth mentioning this, but because of Trump's temperament and his obsession with the ratings, it becomes a very interesting side story. And the one way in which it sort of does matter more in a real way is that more Americans chose to watch the adult discussion about immigration with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer than 9 minutes of Donald Trump's unhinged lies and appeals to emotion. What that might lead to is Trump flipping out on advisors who supposedly pushed him to even do this, because there's now a report in the New York Times which claims that Donald Trump didn't even want to do this speech on Tuesday night and that he thinks his trip to the border wall today, I believe it's scheduled for, is a waste of time, which would be interesting because that means that Trump is somewhat connected to reality about his waste of time strategy on this issue. And he'll be looking for people to blame given the ratings lost to the rebuttal speech. But the one way in which this could still benefit Trump is if he ends up using the address as a pretext to more credibly justify declaring a state of emergency, Pat. And that's the question mark that remains. Regardless of the ratings, is that a pretext to set up declaring a state of emergency to commandeer money for his wall?
I think it's entirely possible that he hasn't even found out about the ratings report yet, because you know how his aides give him a propaganda file twice a day and it's filled with like pictures of positive news and just Trump looking good. I think in the same way, maybe his aides are shielding him from negative news and just are trying to insulate him. So he may not even know about this yet.
It's possible that he doesn't, although it's gotten some coverage, even on networks that Trump reluctantly says that he watches. I think the one miscalculation here was that people who are already Trumpists are totally in 100% on this dumb wall. They believe there's a crisis. They want the wall, the whole thing. If you're not already in that group, if you're even moderately skeptical of the so-called border crisis or of Donald Trump as a truth teller, I don't know that you turn on that speech Tuesday night and find it so compelling that it changes your mind. I think if anything, you realize something's not sounding quite right here, but we'll ultimately see what the impact is. We don't know it yet, that's for sure. Today's program was made possible in part by BetterHelp.com/Pakman. BetterHelp is an online service that gives you access to your own experienced, fully licensed therapist via phone, video, and text. When you see a therapist in person in their office, it can take 3 weeks on average before you're able to get in for your first appointment. But with BetterHelp, you're matched with a therapist who fits your needs within just 24 hours, and you get the same professional service. And the best part is that BetterHelp is less expensive than seeing a therapist in person as well. Plus, you will have totally unlimited access to the therapist. You can talk to them whenever you want on your phone or computer. And because BetterHelp believes in what they do, they also have a full money-back guarantee. If you're not happy with the service, you'll get a full refund, no questions asked. All of their therapists go through an extensive vetting process and are required to have at least 3 years of experience before joining BetterHelp. So you know you're getting someone who's fully qualified to help you. But if you don't think that your therapist is a good fit, BetterHelp lets you switch to someone new at any time. If you've been thinking about getting involved with therapy, you should really check out BetterHelp. Just click the link underneath this video.